I'd like to call the library board meeting of the St. Joseph County Library South Bend to order on Monday, August 6, 2024. I can determine the quorum. Nicole?
Here.
You sure? Christine?
Here.
Ruth?
Here.
Ann?
Here.
Alan?
Here.
Terry?
Here.
And I'm here. Christine?
I would like to make a motion that we amend the agenda, new business agenda, and under 8F, a resolution to exchange property be amended to a resolution for purchase property.
Have a second?
Is there a second?
Nicole second. It's removed to the second, but we amend the agenda at 8F to a resolution to exchange property or resolution to purchase property. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it. Thank you. We have before you the consent agenda.
Move to approve?
Second.
Move the second that we approve the consent agenda. Any questions? If not, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it. Okay, director's report.
So we had 8 interns this summer, some high school, some college. At least one of those college students has decided they want to work in libraries for their career, so that's very exciting for us. The county requested that Center Branch be an early voting site, so we will be, that location will be an early voting site from October 21st through Election Day. And we will occasionally open that meeting room early and on Sundays in order to accommodate the early voting. System-wide managers, along with Alan and Christine, joined senior leadership for strategic planning. And then the senior leadership team and myself took all of the input from that meeting and did another round of strategic planning. So I think we are on a good path to get that completed by the end of the year. We worked with Midwest Collaborative for Library Services, and I think that Pam did a great job of facilitating those meetings. Go
Let
ahead.
me say, I hate strategic planning and I had the best day ever. It was really great and well run.
I'm so glad to hear it. Yeah, Pam does a great job.
Yes.
I felt family.
Good.
Just a side note.
Learned a lot.
Mhm.
The
Good.
fact that you folks can actually do some of the things that you plan is wonderful. I mean, it didn't happen. 3 months in, you didn't make enough money, everything's off the table. Take as much money as you can, as fast as you can, that's not the plan.
Yeah,
That's too bad, really.
that's the nice thing about not working in the for-profit space. We finally got the terrace doors on the 3rd floor of the Community Learning Center replaced and believe that has resolved the last of our water infiltration issues in this building. If you haven't noticed the refurbished sculptures at the front of the building, we cleaned those and put them back up. We installed interior digital signage at all locations, so communications will be able to push out information on local events and system-wide events from their offices here at Maine, so that's pretty exciting. Rana and Lisa have been purchasing art really from South Bend artists to place here at the Maine Library, and they've done just a really great job of putting up some really interesting and a wide variety of art.
One downstairs, when you come in the door. You come to.
By the returns?
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's beautiful,
isn't that
gorgeous. I
Isn't
saw
it
when I
good?
came out, I was like, wow,
Yeah, so there's some in different spots around the library, and it just,
very nice.
it livens up the place, I think. We switched internet service providers with no noticeable really no disruption to staff or patrons at all, which is an exciting day when that happened.
Was that a performance or cost issue?
Just a service provider,
I mean, why did you
Decision.
change?
for better service. Yep. Today's news is that the AC at Francis went down. Hottest
Lucky we're-
Saturday afternoon, so we're waiting for parts. We know that we're planning to replace that system in September, but we'll be closed at least a couple of days this week while we wait for parts and do the fix. It's too logistically complicated to get the new system in because you need a crane. And that crane is already scheduled to be here in September, so. We continue to invest in our staff. This month, we offered management training for our managers from Dr. Hobson, an organizational psychologist from IUNW. I did find him through the IUSB website. And we have an associate librarian taking the ALA class, American Sign Language for library staff. So we have somebody working on that. And Tamika Lax, who's our Western branch manager. She's currently taking classes towards her library certification, was named as ALA's Spectrum Scholar, which is a really prestigious award. It comes, like, there's a list this long of benefits for getting that award. One of them is attending ALA's annual conference and being part of the Spectrum Leadership Institute. And that is ALA's, really, it's their work to have a more inclusive, librarianship. So congratulations to Tamika for that. And then I got a little podcast experience. I was on the Chambers podcast with Jeff Ray. And then Craig Heatherly from Gibson has a local leadership podcast called The Road Less Traveled. And so he invited me to be on that, which we did have to do 2 takes because the first one I forgot the microphone and I kept talking to him. It's fine. So I did that. Yes, on iTunes, probably, or wherever you get your podcast.
Good.
I have a question. The artwork that Lisa and Anna are purchasing, is it being put up as you buy it, or is it, so is there some new stuff out here already?
Yeah, as it's framed, as it's ready to go, and when facilities have the time to do it, but I think they have everything up now, pretty much. Yeah.
So it's not being stored for a big, okay, great.
If you come in the front door, that front door.
They keep coming in the other way.
Yeah.
By the returns,
Returns,
there's
this is huge, beautiful. Is it a painting?
on fabric,
Okay, yeah, it's gorgeous.
painting on fabric. There's a couple of Kamika Perry's pieces outside of the art gallery. There's a South Bend poster outside of our local family history. What am I missing, Ronnie?
There are 2 in youth services in the teen area. Where else is there?
There's one right by the door, like if you look over at youth services, on the computer area, the 3rd floor.
One in the commons, the fireplace. So they're gonna scatter throughout. Yeah.
Yeah.
You'll see a bunch of them.
Really, that one downstairs is really nice. Very nice.
Yeah, they did a great job selecting, and like I said, a wide variety of art between the posters and the painting on canvas, on fabric.
Fabric, yeah, that's it. Okay, any questions for Stephanie? If not, I'll entertain a motion to accept her report.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to accept the director's report. All in favor, say aye. Opposed? Ayes have it. Jenny, we haven't seen you for a while. How's Paris? You?
A few highlights for y'all, on my voice is currently leaving me right now. I wanted to point out the social media highlights that I put on, the first page, and that's because we did a collaboration with Middlebury Public Library for the Olympics, which in Middlebury has a surprising, not surprising for the content that they produce, but I think for
The size of
the size of
community.
the library, they have a surprising following. They're like one of the admirable library social media accounts. So we were able to collaborate with them. The comms team did a great job and made, if you have not yet seen that video, it is well worth watching. It's really funny. Most of our at a glance measures are up, which is nice to see. And specifically, we've had an increase in physical circulation, Digital has been pretty consistent throughout the year, but it might be tied into summer reading or the start of the school year. One area that I think we will be putting some renewed efforts behind is our new cardholder numbers are down for this year. So that's just something that when we look at trends, we're looking at both the things that are going really well and the things that we can identify that are low hanging fruit that we can kind of tap into. So that's one area. Let's see, and way down the final page, the last little chart, which we've never talked about before, but it's program attendance by age. And I wanted to point out here that, so 80% of our programming is geared toward children, whether it's 0 to 5 or 6 to 11. But one exciting thing is the growth in our adult programming. So 12% is actually a pretty huge leap from what we've seen in the past. And we see really good attendance numbers or increasing attendance numbers for our adult programming. So that's something that I'm paying attention to see how that number changes and how attendance changes. Because I know that the branch staff and the ed pros have been working really hard to develop that kind of culture. What we got for you?
Let me just clarify, the children 0 to 5, are those the kids that are mostly hanging out in the children's area?
This is actually, so they've gone to a story time, a baby time, a play, we have a lot of times. Yeah, they're all, so that would be, if they're just hanging out in the children's space, that does not reflect that number.
So it's when we're reading to the children.
Yeah, they're in the programming space, they're doing somewhat of an organized activity.
Can you give an example of what adult program might be?
Yeah, I can. So one, I would say there's two core programming models, and no, here she can't. I'm saying the wrong thing. We do a lot of digital literacy programs, and that some of those happen to be outreach related because they happen at the Fossil. But we're working on sort of that fundamental skill-based programming to offer to adults. And then we're also working on artistic programming. So we recently got a grant for doing some art programming with seniors. And that's something that our new assistant manager of adult programming and outreach. Adult engagement is developing a series of core programs that will be centered on creativity and artistic expression. So those are two areas that we're working on, but they're trying a little bit of everything right now.
Downstairs, the Ask a Lawyer is going on right now, the Ask a Lawyer. That would be considered an all adult program and counted for this
Yeah.
in that category. So just a wide range of things.
How do we advertise something like that, like the Ask the Lawyer? I didn't know about that. I walked the libraries on the side.
Yeah, we have we do, that usually goes out in kind of our usual channels, so it'll have a social media post, we get a flyer, it goes in on Fold.
On the digital signage now up in all of our locations.
I love it.
That one tends to be a program, I think, that agencies will direct people to. So there's a lot of like word of mouth.
Mm.
You know, generally, you know that if you have a legal question, that the Volunteer Lawyer Network was, and they do a lot of their own advertising.
Okay.
So it's a really nice collaborative effort for both, you know, spreading the word as much as possible. But generally, we see a lot of people who, they just kind of, they know about it from someone else or have
Okay.
been advised to visit, or they go every time. Or they go every time. You never know.
Is it once a month?
Oh.
No, I think it's a couple times a year, but
Yeah.
don't quote me on that
We
either.
do it regularly, but
Okay.
what the cadence of that regularity is.
I see you serve 1,500 drinks in the cafe.
Right. I thought the cafe deserves a little bit of a statistical shout out.
It's a lot of coffee
It is a lot of
in
coffee.
a month.
And then I almost started to count like the bagels and the bacon, I was like, no.
We've been told by someone way back in the early planning stages that almost every library tries to get a coffee shop and most, it doesn't work.
We're not most libraries.
Uh-huh.
How are
Good answer.
I say,
they hold their own?
oh, I I mean,
Okay.
and I have 1,500 cups of coffee too. It's 100% the team. I mean, I think they do the cafe supervisor just does a fantastic job of, you know, like, if you go in there now, there's like a whole menagerie. Yeah, it's decorated, she keeps the drinks fresh, all the graces are lovely, and I think they tap into thinking that early childhood programming, all of the parents who come with their kids.
To drink coffee.
And then desperately need a so they know their audience, they've done a great job.
They have merchandising there too, I saw. them.
Yeah.
You sure? Sounds good.
Now I'm doing their commercial.
And that's a collaboration with the foundation, right?
That is
Merchandising, yeah.
actually foundation, yeah.
Okay.
Is it at least break even?
Anjanette will let us know.
Yeah, don't answer that.
I'm not going to, that it has to come off the top of my head, I'm not gonna give you that.
They're doing, I think it's better than we expected.
Yes, I would say that, yes.
Okay. Jeanette,
Okay,
this is your financial report.
yes.
We have none.
Yeah, if there are any questions, obviously the fund report, or the appropriations report, I don't think there's anything, swaying either way. So if there's any questions on this specific line, let me, I can answer that. But I want to kind of just focus on a couple of other things, that just have been going on in the, business office finance. So our IRS bond examination was sent out on August 1st, 2024. At this point in time, we have no additional correspondence, which we are happy about until we get something else. Hopefully it comes back fine. Obviously, this was our first experience with that. And so, but we got it out. We pushed it back a little bit and, it was due on the 5th. And, we got it out on August 1st. We haven't heard anything additional. We also, had arbitrage calculations. That was a new experience also for, Stephanie and I to, learn about, and that was for the 2019 bonds. In general, the arbitrage, we had to do that we had Baker Tilly do that calculation for us, and there were no excess earnings as of the end of the reporting period, and so there's no payment due. So this calculation happens, if there's a payment due, we would let them tell us what we need to do next. But there's no payment due, so we're fine, we just need to, file that, and if it ever comes up, we have the documentation, and we know going forward with any other bonds that we have, that we'll need to make sure that we have this
So
arbitrage.
you used a word I don't understand, arbitrage.
I knew you were gonna say that, which is why I put the definition.
I was gonna say Lisa's sitting right behind you too.
And maybe someone in the gallery can help me also with arbitrage and say more eloquently than.
Sure.
Phil Facenda, Barnes and Thornburg Bond Council.
So, down and dirty, it's actually earning, when we issue the bonds, you set the funds aside in a project fund. And the bonds bear a certain interest rate. And your project fund's not allowed to earn more than the interest rate on the bonds. Okay, that's arbitrage. So the federal government doesn't want you borrowing money, setting it aside and making money on the spread
Okay.
between what you're paying on your bonds versus what you're earning in your construction fund. And so the good news is we did.
Thank you, Phil.
Yes, thank you so much.
I
I would
was
not have been able to say
a
that.
music major, so you don't, you do like.
Anjanette and I learned a couple things.
Yeah, and so, just our investments, just to let you know that, our yield is still, holding pretty strong at 5.3614 in Trust, Indiana, which is where most of our funds, other than what we have in our daily, bank account, sit in. We anticipate, right now, Trust Indiana, and if you're watching the news and things, they are anticipating a potential interest rate cut in September. However, they told us that in March, and it was supposed to happen in June. So we'll just continue to watch what happens. And that is just due to everything that's going on in the economy. We are happy with the consistency of Trust Indiana, with their consistent yield and minimal burden on administration. We could do CDs, for the dollars we have, but that's a lot of
Yeah,
checking the number, moving funds around. Trust Indiana is very liquid for us, and we're really, like working with Trust Indiana. We are going to, move our self-insurance, and create another fund in there for the self-insurance dollars, so that we can earn some more money on that, so as we're moving, forward. And we may be looking at also having, Stephanie went to, a director's meeting and they said that we could, actually have our property tax deposits go into Trust Indiana directly instead of going into the bank first. Which we will work to do that also. If it's a couple days worth of, extra dollars that we can earn,
And it's accrued
why
daily.
and it accrues daily, right? So, anything that we can do to build that additional, dollars. Just some, small highlights. So as we continue to go forward, we will be moving, most of our spending is out of, obviously operating. And so, just the third and the fourth quarter, we will be doing some additional spending out of our LERP, which is the Library, Improvement Reserve Fund. So as we get into Francis Center renovation, and then the building acquisitions, we will be moving some dollars out of that fund versus operating. And then, the Indiana Library Bookkeepers, which is everyone that does pretty much what I do. We held our first statewide, workshop meeting, forum, whatever we want to call it, here at, SJCPL last on the 22nd. I believe that we had like 40, people that do what I do, come into, St. Joe, into the library, and we had about a 4-hour meeting about about 4 topics and some open forum. I think they really enjoyed it. I will say that Carol was probably the highlight of the show, because most of these smaller libraries do not have HR people. And so they were amazed, by the information that she
Yeah.
knew.
I didn't know I was presenting that.
She didn't, she was just supposed to be there for the,
It's the upcoming changes to exempt, non-exempt status that have everybody concerned a little
yes.
bit.
So I think it was great. Next year we will have it in Anderson. They volunteered to do that, and I think it was great to be able to learn, how other libraries do things and smaller, larger, things like that. And then, in September, we will be collaborating with the city of South Bend, and Notre Dame to put on a program here, regarding how to work with the library. So as we're thinking about these building projects, how do you get a contract with the library? How do you get a contract with the city? How do you get a contract with Notre Dame? So, we're anticipating a good showing. And so that's on, September 18th.
An adult program.
And it's all-
Good. Any questions? I'll entertain a motion to accept Jenny and Antoinette's reports.
So we'll
To move in second that we accept the patron engagement report and the financial report. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
No opposed? Ayes have it. We have, thank you, ladies. Any other unfinished business? If not, we will move on to new business. This is our first budget hearing. Am I correct? All right, so I now open the budget hearing for 2025 with a presentation by Antoinette. And the material is in your packets. And on the screen.
So you all have your packets. I won't be specifically going over the packet. Hopefully you've already, absorbed that information and looked at that. But if there are any questions, from the board, please let me know. This is my second budget. I do feel very confident with it. But there were a lot of differences because now we're going through the bond process, and so some things that we had to work through. And so, the budget methodology of how we came up with where the budget is this year, we looked at the actuals from 2023. So what we've actually paid out in 2023 and the first 6 months of 2024. And really looked at the actuals, where we align things, where we changed some of our expenditure lines and appropriations, and adjusted those as needed for inflation. There were even some places that we backwards. Because we weren't spending as much out of that line, why are we budgeting $10,000 for something we're just really not spending? So we wanted to make sure that we were expending those places in the right spots. We also pulled in the departmental budgets, asked everyone in the departments what they needed, what they were looking at, and then looked at that across what they spent in the budgeting process or in the expenditure process throughout the year. So really looked at, you were asking for 5,000, why are you asking for 10,000? Looking at what they asked for and ensuring that those budget lines actually had enough dollars in them to cover what they potentially would need for the year. And then analyzing those against, of course, the actuals that we've seen for 2023, 2024. We also started looking at personnel. Earlier in the year, looking at the economic impact, looking at the living wages, equitable alignment that we've been doing for the past 2 cycles, and just making sure that we have the dollar amounts of what we could potentially do when we come back to you all in a couple months with the personnel proposal. But we made sure that those dollars were in there. We also went to Gibson to talk to our insurance folks. What are we doing for our general claims? What are we doing for healthcare? And made sure that we had enough budget in there to cover those, regardless of what those numbers come in at the end of the year. And then the bond approval process. So we needed to make sure that we knew if and when the bonds come in, what we're going to need to pay next year, how much was going to come in, and what the impact was on with the bonds. And then also next chapter expenditures. These are already starting to come in with Center, with Francis, Tut, although that's a couple years, just knowing that those things could potentially be in those dollars and making sure that we had that additional money to make sure that if something comes up for any other projects, that we were still sticking to the $1 million that we needed to make sure that we had that cushion there for any other projects that came, and making sure that we budgeted efficiently in our LIRP, which is Library Improvement Reserve Fund and Rainy Day. So just continuing to make sure that the budget maintained and went with our current strategic plan to grow and sustain readers, maintaining our collection budget above the 8% that is mandated by the state. The budget is at about 12.81%, so we have a pretty healthy collection for print and digital going into 2025. Building a stronger community, continuing to maintain our salary and benefits for our employees here, and keeping it within that 60 to 65%. And we maintained the same percentage, even though moving those up to ensure that we kept a fair wage we're still within 63%. And then developing our revenue and expenditure forecast, evaluating our debt position. Of course, that again goes with the next chapter, and making sure that we were aligned with what we needed to do for the bond, and that we could pay for those going forward. These are basically where we lay in the full complete budget. Materials, you can see that still at 12.7, salaries about 62%, capital outlays, supplies and services. And these are out of the operating fund, so that does not complete with our in Rainy Day. We always have circuit breaker will always be a challenge for us. However, circuit breaker each year has gone down. We've had a lower number whenever we get the actuals of what circuit breaker, what dollars we're not gonna get. So it is always an impact, but we budget the full amount, and then I always have a working budget on the back end, which is why probably when we see the expenditures and the appropriations there, we've got a good cushion there every year whenever we look at those numbers. So it's going down each year. I think when I got here was or maybe 4.1, now it's 3.8, and it continues to drop a little bit each year.
Back before this really kicked in, it was kind of a panic thing.
Yes.
I was going to survive, but do you know why the amount has never, well, really been as bad as we thought? And it's getting better?
Well, it's 4 million,
Yeah.
so that's a decent chunk, but it's that piece where we're keeping track of. You see like our appropriations in our budget, but we're also keeping track based on our revenue as opposed to just strictly going by our budget. We also keep track of our expenditures according to our revenue, which is a little more realistic. And then also assessed values are, everyone who owns a home knows they're going up, which helps keep that circuit breaker number
So now
down.
that's coming.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
Mhm.
thank you.
Yeah. Then the growth quotient, and so the growth quotient, this year and last year was 4%. But we know that it was capped, for, last year and this year. The legislation has not capped it yet. Don't know if they're going to cap it or not, but it is capped at 4%. However, I want to note that, and basically it's an average of 5 years, right? So, the cap really, if there was no cap, we would have been at 5.58%. So definitely we'll see what happens next year. Will they cap it at 4%? Will they allow it to be the 5.58, or will it be some number in between? Not sure yet. Right now, we just, as we're looking forward, we say 4%. If we get more than 4%, we're happy. And so these are the numbers. These are really what you have already in your packet. The certified max budget is 29.3 million. The circuit breaker again is 3.89. Expected revenue, is 6 million. Now, what we have is, because we have these additional dollars that we're gonna use, toward, the projects, we were able to create a contractual, which I'm not sure if everybody remembers, but, we have some dollars, from a previous project that we are able to use to spend to this, but we did not have to add that into the certified budget.
Was not a project, it was the consortial agreement with the other libraries.
Oh, yeah.
That then when it was disbanded, every library got a portion of that pot that was left. And so because we know we want to use that for upcoming projects, we wanted to make sure it was included in the budget.
And then the self-insurance reserve fund, that's what we created last year, and we're able to move those dollars in there. So it's a total, and so they certify the 29 million, which is the top 4 funds that are listed there. The other 2, we show those, but they are not reviewed, nor do they need to be certified by DLGF. With that, are you ready?
Question. It's clear as mud.
We'd love you to have all the audits and
Yeah, it's been a ride over the last 6 months, yeah, because the audit came right in between when I
Yeah.
really wanted to work on budget. And so yeah, we got it done though.
So any questions from the board members? If not, are there any questions from the public? Public is. Okay, I'm good. So we will see this again. When?
Next month,
Next month,
next.
for final approval?
Yep.
Okay. Any other questions? I will close our budget hearing, and thank you, Anjanette, for what you've done. Okay, Lisa.
Yeah, I submitted a proposal to close Francis Branch to the public from September 23rd to the 26th, with the option to remain closed through October 5th if needed. So starting on September 23rd, the HVAC unit and the sorting machine will be replaced. So this does require that the library be closed to the public. And the closure will include heavy machinery, so we're going to close the parking lot as well. We want the option to close through October 5th if needed. We have to, we want that option because the HVAC unit will actually not be operational, when it is installed, by September 26th. It won't have the coolant until October 5th. And so if the temperature's too high during that time, we'll have to close the branch further.
Okay, you all see the proposal? Do you have a motion to approve? Have a second?
Second.
It's been moved and second that we, close the Francis branch, from September 23rd to the 26th with the option to remain closed to October 5th. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it. Okay. Thank you, Lisa. Bond resolution.
No, yeah, one more for Lisa.
Oh, I'm sorry, the loan rules.
Yeah, so we're requesting approval for changes to the library card rules table, and that can be found in Appendix D of the Public Services Policies document. I've also attached the original table to the document for reference. So listed in the proposal are all the changes we are requesting. We're removing the checkout limits on CDs and DVDs. We're eliminating the categories of video games and laptop hotspot kits. We're removing the requirement for ID for checkout of in-house laptops, adding the category of library of things, removing return requirements for discovery passes, adding a renewal column, combining the rows for digital materials. And you can find these changes in the attached revised library card rules table.
This goes into effect immediately. Questions? We have a motion to approve.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
I got a second and a third. Okay. This will moved and second that we, approve the request to revise the library card rules, effective immediately. Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Okay, thank you, Lisa. Now, bond resolution.
So today we have with us Phil Facenda from Barnes and Thornburg Bond Council, and it looks like you have somebody with you. And then Lisa Huntington from Baker Tilly, who prepared the financials for the bond. So I'm just gonna turn it over to them.
Phil Fasenda again, I will give you just a brief overview of what the resolution does, what it approves, and then I'll ask Lisa to get into the financial analysis of the two bonds. The bond resolution approves bonds in multiple series, in two series basically. And the projects to be financed are the renovation and expansion and improvement of LaSalle branch. And also the acquisition of property, reconstruction, improvement for the western.
I'm sorry, not the acquisition of property, just the improvement of that building.
So you're using, are we?
Library improvement reserve. I did not think you included acquisition of property in the resolution.
We do, I think so. Don't we have that in the?
It is right there. Acquisition.
Oh, well, let's edit it.
There you go. Okay.
Sorry, I missed it.
And then ultimately we could decide we're allowing for those uses, so, you may not end up using.
Okay,
funds for that, but
all right.
we'll allow for that use. So the amounts for the, that are allowed in the, or authorized in the resolution are 4 million from LaSalle. And about 6 million for Western. At least we'll explain, those are parameter, as we say, parameter amounts. Those are the amounts that is the not to exceed figures. It is anticipated that we will issue less. In the case of both bonds, probably a little bit less for LaSalle and probably considerably less for Western. And part of the reason you saw in your budget proceeding the funds on hand at the library, there's anticipated that $1.7 million that'll be applied to these projects. And that $1,700,000 funds on hand will reduce the borrowing amounts. Why are we authorizing these amounts the way we're doing it is because we're doing them in two separate timeframes. There's bidding considerations for the two different projects, and we're just not quite sure, as we sit here today, what dollars we're gonna need from which bond. So we authorized a much larger amount and then anticipate issuing a lesser amount. From here, we expect to proceed timetable wise. We'll come back to this board for an additional appropriation public hearing on the bonds themselves, and that will be next month. And we will also proceed to have the county council approve our bond issue. And those will be committee meetings at the end of September, and approval consideration will be at the October 8th meeting of the county council. And then from there, we will proceed to get notice of a bond sale and prepare disclosure documents, et cetera, for a bond sale. Hopefully, the first series of bonds will close in December of this year, and the second series of bonds, which will finance the Western branch, will be in March or April of next year. Last, some of the parameters, the bonds are each authorized to be 20-year maturities from the time that they are issued. We are anticipating an interest rate not to exceed 5.5%. Hopefully something south of that as well, but again, upper parameter. And if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer those, or I maybe will let Lisa explain the financial, and you can ask her questions. Yeah.
So you mentioned something about committees and then county council on October 8th. And I know our public who is watching this meeting is very interested in supporting the library. And so how would they do that, and when are the committee meetings, and who are they?
So the committee meetings will be held on the, there will be 1 second, this is the last Tuesday of the month of September. And I'm gonna get my timetable in front of me, so I, again, anticipated that the county council committee would be the evening of September 24th. Okay, and those are 5:30 meetings and held in the county council committee room, really, the back room, not the general meeting room. And then the county council will have their general meeting on October 8th. That's an evening meeting at 6. That will be held in the county council chambers, the large meeting room. And so, yes, we'd be happy to have all the support at that meeting that we can get.
And Jenny and I are working on a plan for communication too. Yep.
Any other
Thank
questions?
You have a question?
Okay, all right, so you can take it over.
She'll highlight the important.
Afternoon, I'm Lisa Huntington with Baker Tilly, and we're the people that help you with the financing, with the numbers, all of the things that go behind the resolution that Phil just described. So I'll start on page 3 of the handout that I provided, and this is a graph that shows the outstanding existing debt of the library as it is today. And one thing that you'll notice is that in between 2024 and 2025, we see a large step down in that debt service for the debt. This is what allows us to issue bonds this year without having a tax rate impact on the community. We can just fill in that gap with the new bonds. So if we look at page 4, again, you can see the column to the far left of the taxable general obligation bonds of 2018. You see the last payment for those funds is being made this year. So again, we're just gonna kind of fill in that gap between what you have outstanding and issue some new debt in between. Page 5 is a schedule of the library's general obligation bonding capacity. General obligation bonds are probably the easiest type of bonds to issue. They take less legal steps. And this is based on the library's net assessed value. It's 2% of 1/3 of your net assessed value, less any outstanding general obligation debt that you have. So your net general obligation capacity is 33,700,000, well above what you'll need for these projects. But then if we turn to page 7, this table just illustrates a summary of the financing that we're considering in the bond resolution this evening. So we have that divided into 2 projects. The LaSalle Branch project will be the general obligation bonds that we anticipate issuing yet this year. And then the Western Branch project will be the bonds that Bill mentioned will issue in the spring of 2025. As you can see, we have maximums for the LaSalle Branch project of 4 million and 6.35 million for the Western project. That aligns with the bonds resolution. Again, we set maximums a little bit higher than we might anticipate that we'll need, just to allow your flexibility. So, you know, when we really drill down into project costs and other things like that, you'll have enough capacity to complete the renovation as you wish. We also anticipate that the library will use some funds on hand, about 1.7 million, that can be divided between either project. The next line just discusses the anticipated bond issuance amount. So for the LaSalle Branch, we're estimating between 3.7 and 4 million, but we can't exceed 4 million because that's in the resolution. And then for the Western Branch, we anticipate borrowing perhaps 4.65 to 4.9 million. Again, that's gonna really depend on the project costs when they come in, and then how we allocate the cash on hand for the projects. Each series of bonds will be repaid over about 19 years. 20 years is the maximum term for a bond. And we anticipate no tax rate impact for issuing these bonds and completing the projects. So the chart on the next page is just an illustration of how now we've kind of filled in those gaps that we had from the previous existing debt service, just leveled everything out. So we're keeping your debt service on an even level with the tax rate also remaining even. And then page 9 are just the numbers behind that chart. If you can, you know, look at the far right-hand column, you can see we have pretty level even debt service payments for the next 20 years. Do you have any questions about the financing?
Questions?
Guess the question that shouldn't even be asked is there any chance with our current political situation where they might see not approving the bond because that could in theory lower tax rates in the country?
Well, I would say that there is always that chance. We are, you know, we do need to appear before the county council to have approval to issue the bonds, but I think we tell a good story.
Yes.
I think, you know, we're trying to revitalize a part of town and without having any impact to the taxpayer, so.
Thank you, Lisa.
Terry?
I can make something up.
I thought you were gonna say
Well, I
something.
think the most exciting thing here is that we can do this project without impacting the taxpayer.
I would think the city would be not only, well, they'd be very positive on this. I mean, these locations are perfect for.
Revitalization, yes.
Yeah.
So it's the county,
So it's a county.
it's the county council.
Okay. So. Do we
We
need
need
to?
to vote on the bond resolution,
Okay,
yeah?
you have in front of you the bond resolution that's in your packet. And I will entertain a motion to approve the bond resolution.
Second.
It's been moved and second that we approve the resolution to issue the bonds for construction. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it. Done.
Okay.
I have to find somebody there, I'm sure. Okay. Jeanette, are you
Oh, I'm sorry, this is resolution to
purchase
purchase
the property?
residential property.
Right.
And that's what we discussed, so you have that resolution in front of
Do
you.
we need to, do I need discussion?
No,
Okay, I need a motion to approve the resolution to purchase the property,
the residential. property.
residential property.
Sounds good.
Move a second. You guys are really good tonight. So move a second that we approve the resolution to purchase the residential property. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it. And, in reference to Christine's motion, we're gonna take F, which is a resolution for the
Purchase of
purchase
commercial.
of commercial property, which we've already heard.
Mhm.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay, I entertain a motion, motion for that.
So moved.
Second? Thank you. To move a second that we approve the resolution for the purchase of commercial property. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it. All right. Any other business? Not MKM.
So we have with us tonight Zach Benedict from MKM Architecture and Design. He has been working with us on the renovation of Center Branch Library, and he's here to show you what we're up to.
Oh, thank you.
So this is an update on the progress at the center branch. And we just wanted to give you an update of where it stood in terms of its schedule, and conceptual design. On the first page, what you'll find is, the initial concept for the enhancements to the site, and the landscape architecture. You're looking at, on the right side of that sheet, an overall, site plan, and to the left, an enlarged site plan of that nature play and story trail area. This is an extension of the exterior courtyard that exists today, and is proposed to be a fenced-in, play learning area for the children's, and some, story walk and outdoor seating, for people of all ages and abilities. There are some other enhancements, especially by the front entry, that'll be more landscapes focused, but here in this, nature play area, there'll be a lot of, exterior furniture installations, activity spaces for children as well. On the second page, you'll see a conceptual floor plan of the area. Not to insult anyone that comes to this branch every day, but I will remind you of what sits there right now. You have a shared large vestibule that allowed that meeting room to be used after hours. What it also did, and it was a common thing for a lot of libraries at the time, it forces patrons to essentially leave the building and go through the vestibule to use the restrooms. Which I don't think has the best experience for a lot of patrons. So one of the priorities that we established in the master plan was to try to enhance that arrival sequence and also increase the visibility, into those large meeting rooms as you walk into the building. So as you come in, that new shortened vestibule, reduces the size of that existing lobby, allows direct access to 3 new unisex restrooms as opposed to, a bank of men's and women's off the vestibule. What that also does is by moving that interior vestibule wall, it allows us to open up that interior wall into the large meeting room. So there can be a series of windows there to kind of see what's going on in that space. In addition, we're opening up some windows to the medium-sized meeting room to the south. Separate from that, we're gonna show a new circulation desk and kind of reception lounge lobby area there. And then also prioritizing the introduction of 3 small meeting rooms on that kind of west edge overlooking the existing courtyard, to help provide some isolated spaces for quiet, small group study, and meeting space. So that third sheet, you can see this is the new entry lobby vestibule looking out of the building from the circulation desk. On the left of that image, you can see the new windows into the large meeting room. We've retained some of the display areas, and then to the right of that image would be the medium-sized meeting room.
I'm
So-
very, very excited about this, that people coming in will be able to see what is happening really easily in that large meeting room. Sorry.
No. And then the last page is just a quick sketch of the new circulation desk, circ area, computer area, copy print, service area, and some informal seating around kind of that social zone to help buffer people accessing staff versus using the computers there to the left. So the hope with this is that the preliminary budget for this location was $1.5 million. Our schedule shows us going out to bid next month with the hopes that I come back at your October meeting for bids for your review and approval,
With construction starting.
November-ish. We'll leave that to them. We're not forcing them, but November at the earliest, probably more like mid-December.
So would the branch close?
Mhm.
So that won't interfere with voting location.
Correct. We would not start it before election day.
Remind me, so with respect to the current restroom situation, now, after this is complete, there'll be 3 individual unisex, 3 separate bathrooms. What actually in the men's and the ladies' room now, what is the capacity?
2 fixtures each.
2 fixtures in each? Okay, so we're basically losing 1 fixture.
You're losing 1 fixture with the flexibility of being able to surge 3 women into 3 unisex restrooms if needed.
3 men too.
Yeah.
Sure.
And that ability for dads to have their daughters, moms to have their sons in the same restroom as them, I think is a really important thing.
It also allows us to say that all of the bathrooms are fully accessible, families, restrooms, unisex capability and changing rooms for every restroom.
Mhm.
After hours, someone using the meeting room. After hours, do they still have accessibility to those restrooms? I can't tell.
No,
We would do less of that. We probably would not do that anymore. The after hours access. Statistically, we don't get that much use of it, and we thought the smaller vestibule and the 3 unisex restrooms was a fair trade-off for it.
And also this facility does offer hours beyond the library hours. So there's always an option.
This one we're sitting in right now, yes. Mhm.
This facility, not that's.
I have a question about the landscaping, and I don't, this doesn't obviously show what the plans are, but I'm hoping that there's going to be natural native plants in there that help with pollinating. Yeah.
All native. We won't plant anything that's not native.
we specifically picked a landscape architect that only specializes in native landscapes
Oh, excellent.
for that very reason. So, yeah.
And the play area will, aside from the story trail, are you working with somebody who knows how to do like a natural playground? I don't know if that's what's in your head, but I'm thinking there's some early childhood programs that have natural playgrounds. It's less,
We're,
it's just more natural.
we're working on, so the children's areas and the children's features, we've really struggled with how do we design that. That's not their specialty. We wanted to do something a little more special, so we're getting ready to put out an RFP for specific features for this location and then Western LaSalle and Lakeville, more specifically. So we're looking to find the person, because we just decided that we don't have the capacity to do that ourselves.
I know somebody she wouldn't be doing it, but she might be a good,
Like nature,
absolutely.
Nature explorer,
consultant,
yeah. Okay, so I'm giving her name.
So where it says children's reading area, in the far left hand, little point coming up, is that just for moms and kids to read, or is that meant to be like where we do story time? Where that little, the point comes out here.
Currently, we do story time in the large meeting room. We would continue to do that. We occasionally bring it out to that space. But that's a space where we reserved room in the budget to put something cool. We just don't know what that looks like yet.
What I was wondering is, I remember a few years ago, I went to an ALA meeting and they talked about some places where they did that. The children's collection, shelving, they could move it so that if they wanted to expand, will the shelving units be, can we move those back if we wanted to do something over there?
No, we ran out of money.
Yeah.
So we've done story times that specifically do that. Right now, we're not showing any new shelving at this location. That's
If we
something
come in
could
way
pursue.
under budget, we can have that, but he keeps telling me our budget is. Every time I say, can we do this? He goes,
Well, the other problem you have is your story times are so popular, you need to use a larger room.
yeah,
So, I mean,
that's true. Once we get that feature in there, that will take up a lot of that, what's showing as empty space now.
The other thing we're doing here for children's is that large meeting room will get a new resilient flooring, so no more carpet. So they can do activities that you wouldn't dare do on carpet with children. And that probably allow them to do things that they don't do right now.
They're a little hesitant to use paint. And I don't ever want them to be hesitant to use paint and wet things and shaving cream and all that stuff.
Did I understand correctly that the long-term intent is to not allow people to stay after hours using a meeting room?
Yes,
Then why have a vestibule at all?
Required by energy code.
Okay.
That's the only reason.
But if we wanted to put a drop down, gate somewhere along that entryway, blocking off the rest of the library, I guess could we do it?
In the future,
I mean, it looks like it.
yes, you could.
You could do that.
It would have to be a gate that allowed egress out of the building, which they make. They're just more expensive than,
Also, even if it was brought down after people were gone.
I don't know, but if you forget, if you lock someone in, if there's a quiet introvert in the staff restroom while you lock the doors, I gotta have a way for them to get out of the building.
No other questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Very exciting.
very exciting.
Okay. Do we have any visitors today? All home folk. Okay. Our next board meeting will be Monday, September 23rd. In this session. Well, a motion to adjourn. Nobody talks.
So.
Well, a second. Meeting adjourned. Thank you.
Thanks for hanging in there tonight. Agenda.
Yeah.
We didn't have it on there.